Wow, thank you, Diana. Thank you, band. Whew, we are called to be. Yes. We are called to be. What are we called to be? Well, we are called to be love. Every one of the world's great religions talks so much about love. But what is love? What is love? Is it religion? No. Love is only real when it lives in each one of us, when it moves in us and through us. How many of you have ever heard the phrase, life is a song? Nobody? Yeah, okay. Life is a song. Well, if life is a song, what are you singing? What are you singing? Are we always singing love? No. If we were, we probably wouldn't be sitting in this room today. What is your song like, though? Is it a happy song? Is it a song that makes those who hear it smile, that lifts them up, that builds them? Or is it a song that puts them down? What kind of song are we singing? Love is the music. And it is the music that makes the song come alive. It's not so much the words as it is the thinking and the energy and the feeling behind the words. Do we live our truth? I believe most of us do the best we can in that regard. But it is time that the world as a whole and us as individuals say, what is the song that is within me? What kind of music am I putting to the words of that song? Is it music that heals, that soothes, that empowers, or that does the opposite? We seek music. We seek music in life, the music that is love, that gives us life. And that love is God's love. It is what God is in us, as us, and through us. There's much that is written in many of the world's religions by whatever name they may call God about what the nature of that love is. In Isaiah, it is written, "For the mountains may depart and the hills be removed, but my steadfast love shall not depart from you, and my covenant of peace shall not be removed, says the Lord, who has compassion on you." Isaiah was writing to give us, number one, an understanding of how we are created. How we are created not in the light of love, but as love expressing. And that nothing except our own thinking can separate us from that love. It's endless. It is unconditional. In Jeremiah, it is written, "I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, I have continued in my faithfulness to you." That love, I'm hearing children, that love never ceases, never changes. It goes beyond our human experience, which sometimes is transactional, which sometimes is judgmental. God's love that we are, that expresses in, as, and through us, or at least tries to, is unconditional. It sees beyond the world of appearances. And it allows us to want to have a more higher, purer experience of that love, and to be more of that love and expression. We desire faithfulness without really knowing what it is. And that faithfulness has nothing to do with what our human definition of that is. It has to do with being faithful to the truth that we are, even when our human emotions drive us to do otherwise. We all have those times when we're not at our highest or brightest. But we are promised over and over again in every teaching the world has ever had that that's a temporary situation, that it is just something we trip over in our journey of love. And so we always have the opportunity to rise beyond that experience. I think a lot of times when we have those experiences, it's because we are in a place where it feels like something is lacking. And so often we look for love in other people, and when we can't find it, we go looking somewhere else for it. I think there was a country song, looking for love in all the wrong places. We look for it out there, and it is all out there and around us, but we forget that we first have to find it in ourselves before we can see it out there. And I would say if there is somebody out there who has pushed your buttons, look in here and find out what that button's connected to in you. Because I promise you, in my experience anyway, it is. When somebody pushes my button, after a while, I say, okay, wait a minute. Why did that push my button? What's it connected to in me? And then when we do that, we can find that love that is within us all of the time, that assures us there is a higher experience of love. You know how miraculous that feeling is? I bet we've all had it. When you find that within yourself and you feel that uplifting, that upwelling of love within you. And we discover that one of the most powerful attributes of love is compassion. Not the feeling sorry for each other kind of compassion that is the human definition of it, but a divine compassion. The word compassion means to be with passion. It's Valentine's week. Feel the passion. It means to be one with it, that divine compassion that's a flowing kind of love, not a static love, a love that flows in, through, and from us all the time. You know, from the very beginning of what would become the Western belief in God, we've been promised a steadfast love. But we often don't realize what that means. What it meant originally was an unending, unconditional love. Love without judgment. Love that is freely given all the time. We are here in this life to feel God. And you can substitute the word God with love, to feel love. You're here today to feel that, not to listen to me, but to feel the love in the sanctuary like we sang about, to feel the love that is all around us even when we're not in this sanctuary. We are here to come alive with God as love as our life energy. Sometimes we forget. You know, it's no accident that Valentine's Day is in what in the northern hemisphere, especially further north than New Mexico, is the coldest, darkest time of year. It's in that time of year to remind us that when we are feeling that cold and darkness in our life, there is still love. You know, I remember even when I was a kid thinking how February was the shortest month of the year, but it seemed like the longest. You know, it seemed like the snow would never stop and the sun would never come out. Sometimes in life that happens. We get in those wintertime experiences and we forget the love that lies underneath the experience. We forget that there are things going on, as I've said the last couple weeks. There are things going on beneath the snow and beneath the frozen ground. Life is happening. And that is when we must seek that spark. It never goes out. It's always there. But that is when we have to be reminded to look for it. I think that's why Valentine's Day falls when it does, to remind us to look for the light. How do we do that? How do we find that? How do we express that love? Well, the first thing we have to know is that God loves us. I know that's a cliche, but the creation itself is love. And we are a part of creation, not apart from it. We are a part of it. Therefore, we are a part of love. And we have to remind ourselves sometimes about that by turning within, by finding it within us. Because that is when we are holy and whole and complete. The second thing we have to remember is we are not alone. We are not alone. We are one with that presence. That presence is within us regardless of how we may be feeling in any particular moment, regardless of what is happening around us. I'm reminded of a story that kind of illustrates looking for what is necessary, what is really needed, and sometimes forgetting it. There was a man who was looking for a Valentine's Day present for his wife. And he thought, I get flowers every year, I get candy every year, all the usual stuff. I want to do something different this year. And he thought, and he prayed, and it came to him, I'm on the road a lot, my wife is alone. I said, why don't I get her a pet? I'll get her a bird. And I'll get her a bird that sings and is beautiful and talks. So he goes to the pet store, and he finds this beautiful parrot. And he asks the pet shop owner, does it sing? Oh, yeah, it's got one of the most beautiful voices you have ever heard. Listen. And it sang. And he says, does it talk? And he says, yes. Molly, want a cracker? And it talks. And he says, oh, this is perfect. So he takes it home, gives it to his wife. Nothing happens. So the next day he goes back to the pet shop owner, and he says, what's going on here? The bird didn't do anything. It didn't say anything. It didn't sing. He says, well, that's strange. Did he peck on his little bell? And the man says, well, I don't have a bell. He says, well, you got to have a bell. You wake up to a bell in the morning, don't you? Here, let me sell you a bell, and put it in his cage. So he pays $16.95 for a bell, puts it in the little bird's cage, and next morning the bird gets up. Nothing happens. So he goes to the pet shop owner, and he says, I put the bell in his cage. He's still not singing or talking. He says, well, that's weird. Did he climb his ladder? Well, you didn't sell me a ladder. Well, I happen to have a ladder here for $21.95. He likes you like exercise. Give him something, get his blood going to give him some exercise. So he buys the ladder, takes it home, puts it in the cage, and next morning, nothing happens. So he goes back to the pet store owner, and he says, he's still not doing anything. Did he climb his ladder? No. Did he ring his bell? No. Did he look in his mirror? You didn't sell me a mirror. So he buys a mirror, takes it home, puts it in the cage, and next morning, nothing happens. So he goes back to the pet shop owner, and the pet shop owner says, well, did he swing on a swing? You didn't sell me a swing either. So he buys the swing, takes it home, puts it in the bird cage. Next morning, he walks into the pet shop with the dead bird in his hands. And the pet shop owner says, what happened? Well, he died. And he says, well, did he ever sing or talk? And the man says, well, he never did sing, but he finally did talk. He said, well, what did he say? And the man says, well, I put the swing in his cage, and he looked at me kind of strangely. And then he went over and he pecked on his little bell and hobbled over to his mirror, looked at himself, climbed up his ladder and jumped up onto the swing. And as he swung there forlornly back and forth, he looked at me, and just before he toppled over and died, and he looked at me and said, didn't they have any birdseed? If we want to sing, if we want to speak words of truth, of healing, of joy and uplifting, we have to feed ourselves. And the food that we require, the food that is all around us, we don't have to go anywhere and get it, is the energy of love. That is the purpose of life. The only real purpose of life is to give love, to receive love, to learn love. We're not here to change people's minds to our way of thinking. The only thing that will change the world is to become love. This does not mean that when you are faced with a challenging person or a situation, you say, well, excuse me for a minute, I must find love within me. That's what we do. Doesn't mean you necessarily say it. That could scare people. But if you look deep within yourself, you will find that there is something greater than the situation. And we're all human. We all get caught up in these experiences we have from time to time, and we forget to stop. We forget to say, what's really happening here? Why am I feeling this way? Not why is somebody doing something to me, but why am I feeling this way? And when we look within, and it takes practice, we discover that love that transcends it, that shows us the real light in ourselves, in the other person, in the other people, in the other group, whatever it may be. And little by little, it begins to come through us. And every time we decide to become love, we change the world. But there's a great truth that we forget. Not any of you in here, because I'm going to show you how we remember it. But one of the things that gets forgotten often is that you cannot love without giving. It's not possible. Every time you love, you've already given the ultimate gift. You are one step closer to becoming that which you seek. That's what religion really should be all about. Moving closer and closer and closer to being expressions of real love. And so one of the ways we do that is by giving of ourselves to one another. It is what we call service. It is how we immerse ourselves fully in love. We give from our heart to the heart of others. And there's many, many ways to do it. We may do it through a desire to make other people's lives better, a desire to improve our world, a desire to spread our light. And here at Unity Spiritual Center, we have many people who so love our community and all who are a part of it that they give their time and their talent. And when a community together gives of its time and talent to one another, they are able to send that out further into the world. When you give love, the only thing that can happen is it can increase. It will increase. So this being Valentine's Day, I want to show you what a powerful energy of love this community is. By recognizing all of the different ways you all give of your love and your light to Unity Spiritual Center, to us as individuals in Unity Center, and to our world. So I'm going to ask different teams to stand up so we can see and recognize and send you love. First off, the very first people you see when you walk into the door for the very first time, the people who show the light that we have on their faces, in their eyes, and by their open arms, are our ushers and greeters. So if you are on the usher and greeter team, would you please stand up? Yes. Yep. And one of the ways we show love is through food, through sharing of food. So if you are on the hospitality or bring us food, Steve, would you stand up? And we have our chaplains who hold the high watch, who hold this community in their hearts and their prayers, and who do the healing prayer circle, contemplative gathering. Would you please stand up? And because we have a gorgeous building to sit in, nice chairs, clean chairs and everything to sit in, those of you who take care of our building and our grounds, Carl is not here with us. He has to work on Sunday afternoons, but we will include him as well. Please stand up. And many of our musicians do not take any pay at all, and even those that do give so much more of their time and talent than the pittance we pay them for. Music is powerful. Stand up. And our office volunteers. We have a lot of people that work behind the scenes. You may not even know who they all are, but they come in and they help us in the office. They put books together, they file, I don't even know what all they do. They do so much. Would you please stand up? Where's Lori? Oh, there she is. Yes. And Sherry. And I'm going to include Glenda in there. Glenda is paid staff, but Glenda does way more than what we pay her for. Yes. And you know, there's a group of people who also work mostly behind the scenes, but are very hardworking, and that's our board of trustees. Would you please stand up? Yes, they are volunteers. And those who make knowledge available, our library staff, our lending library staff, would you please stand up? Are any of you here today? You are not here today, but they're here when we're not looking. And of course, our AVLM staff, John, and our volunteers back there who put in countless hours of work. Stand up. Those who teach, our adult class teachers, our better living teachers and presenters, our metaphysical Bible study leaders, yoga, tai chi, qigong, soon to be the artist toolbox. We've had so many great classes, metaphysics, Bible, all of those. Would you please stand up? Yes. And those who help us reach out into our community through our outreach, grief group, HIV, recovery groups, supporting Ernie Pyle Middle School, the Backpack Drive, Christmas Toy Drive, Teddy Bear March, which is coming up, by the way, clothing for the homeless. Would you please stand up? And we have those that work together to build community, our men's group and our women's group. Men's group and women's group. Leaders, stand up. Rita is not here, I guess, but she's included too. We have our Chance team. Chance? Yes. And have you ever noticed our sign out front? Do you know it gets changed every week? Yep. We have people who change our sign. Would you please stand up? No, they're not here today either. I shouldn't have done this on Super Bowl Sunday. We now have drumming. Our drumming leaders, would you please stand up? Earth care, taking care of our earth, teaching us all how to be more mindful of earth and all that lives upon her. Would you please stand up? When you give your tithes and offerings, somebody has to count those. If you are one of our counting angels, would you please stand up? We have a church photographer. Carrie, where are you? Yes. We have our IT tech people. We have Carrie and Nina Joy, Alex. Who else do we have in that department? That's a growing, moving department, so there's still more of us coming, as Sherry has taught us a lot. Would you please stand up if you've helped with that in any way? When they come in, we'll recognize the YFM team. But finally, those of you who may not be volunteering at the moment, but have been volunteers. If you're in the building, I know there's some of you. Would you please stand up? None in the building today. We do have many, many who have reached a point in life where they're receiving after giving for so many years. Now I want to show you something. Everybody who stood up, stand up one more time. And if I didn't call out your team or something, but you have volunteered in other ways, because there's so many ways, please go ahead and stand up. It takes a village. And this is the village. You are the village people. Yes. So what do? We multiply love. I'm reminded of a story, I think I read it in Reader's Digest many years ago, about a woman who was in the grocery store and she had 12 kids. 12! All had been adopted. And somebody came up to her and said, I don't know how you do it. How do you divide your love amongst all these kids? And she said, oh, honey, you don't divide your love, you multiply it. And that's what we do. That is what we do when we give of ourselves. We multiply the love. We nurture the world, and the love comes back to us. That is the fruit of the Spirit that most churches talk about, but I don't think always understand. It is through our giving of ourselves. How do we truly live our beliefs? We do it by becoming God's love in living action. And the most effective way we do that is through service. So to all of you who have volunteered, who are volunteering, who will volunteer, you are love expressing. I am so grateful. Unity is so grateful, and the world is so grateful. You are the you in unity, and God and I love you. Thank you.